Hello and welcome, I am Rzeźnik, and as promised this is my first in-game video of Attilla Total War, and I'm explaining, comparing the differences between the pikemen and the spearmen. What is crucial about these units, I have established in my two previous videos that my favorite spear unit is Germanic spearmen, my favorite elite pike unit is elite Ostrogotic pikemen, and by coincidence you can get both those units when playing Ostrogoths. You have access to them, and more, they cost the same amount of cash. So let's hop into the game and let's see some tips and tricks on how to use them, and let's compare their usefulness. We aren't going to fight anyone, I'm just going to see more unit control and tips and how to get the most out of them in the combat situation. So let's start the battle. First, what is the role of our pikemen against other unit types? Pikemen are excellent on the front against enemy cavalry. Spearmen are only good against cavalry on the front. Why? Because pikemen, with the, as mentioned in my previous video, have weapon range of 5, meaning that they can deal damage without taking one. The expert charge defense that they have a variant of means that all of the enemy units die here without contact. However, spears have only range of 1, meaning that to apply the expert charge defense, okay, let's move here. Expert charge defense. So to deal this damage, this unit needs to take damage, and receiving charge is always costly, no matter the unit, and it costs about 20, even more, man, depending on the enemy of the enemy cavalry. So there's a downside just on the front, the lower range. More, up to 3 ranks of pike can attack simultaneously. You can reduce it to 1 or 2 if you so desire. So excellent against charging cavalry, only good against charging cavalry. Pikes, good against infantry, because of how the long range is, how each pike have a push effect. Light or charging infantry with high charge will kill themselves, and heavy infantry are not cost nor time effective when entangling them. It can be done to pull through by moving and engage those guys in 1 range instead of 5 range, but it is a tricky one. These guys are not good against melee infantry, and the no-nonsense paired for cost melee infantry will beat them hands down. Third, missile fire. These guys have 25 inherit with a buff up to 35 missile bonus, shield bonus. So okay, a decent armor 45. These guys have 40 base bonus, information 65, and more armor. So hands down, these guys are very good against missile fire, even crossbow fire. And these guys are okay against missile fire, and they can stand against slingshots, the bows, but not crossbows, not javelins. So this is the one downside here. So you can say this is kind of a mixed bag. Also, these guys always have information. These guys are kind of useful even when out of formation. They deal less damage, less tanky, but still they can dish out. So you can say these things balance. Maybe it's worth bringing those 2 units even in the same cost bracket to the battle. No, no. My conclusion will be that I lean toward bringing pikes each time instead of spearmen if I have the choice. Why is it? Because of the details, of battle usefulness, of how you command your formation, of how good the role they play. Let me elaborate. Pikes, first, you can, with information, you can order them to cover ground. You can do this as Maximus called it, do a spaghetti line, which is 1 full line, 1 not full line. You can do 2 lines, which is, I would say, the best compromise between killing power, because 2 ranks, 2 files of them will attack and you get a lot of ground covered, and then half less, which is 3 ranks, and well, it's not half less, it's 3 ranks, so maximum killing power. And let's make the time faster. Free ranks cover a lot of ground, and you get excellent killing power. Those pikes will stop any cavalry in 3 ranks deep, and most infantry, and they cover a lot of ground. In 2 ranks deep, you still will going to stop basically all cavalry, but only most infantry, some infantry. And then in this formation, you have those weak points on the side the enemy can strike and exploit, and enemy infantry striking on those sides, weak sides, are going to entangle them in melee combat, like range 1-to-1. So it's not advised that the ground you cover from this to this is not that big, so I would recommend no weak points, because good players can exploit them. So this is, I would say, this is my minimum for those expensive guys. Now, shieldmen. There is a few things about what makes them inferior. First, when you go formation and you want to drag just like the pikes any further, you'll notice that the game limits you to 5.5 rows deep. For whatever reason, it is counter logic. You cannot go deeper. If you were to drag and drop like this, the difference between ground covered between 3 rows that I prefer for those heavy guys, whether it's infantry. Okay, no, wrong button. 3. Is it 3? Okay, this is 3, I think. Yep. So the difference is huge. If you were to just drag and drop, it's more than half, more than 100%, like 2.5. So you need 2.5 of those. That's why you have to play a trick. When you go out of formation, you drag your units. Let's say you want a 3-row, full 3-row formation, and upon assuming 3-row, make it an assumption, a false assumption, that being in 3 rows as spearmen is the optimal way of playing also with pikemen, on stopping cavalry and infantry, which is not true, which I'll write later. So you press spear wall formation, and they tighten the spacing and form a 3-row. And 2 things you have to notice. First, they change of how, because the spacing loosens, they have to deduct men from those sides, creating those weak points, and it doesn't actually correspond with what we planned. So you have to play around it to receive a full uniform free file unit. And there is a quick little guide I created you. Let me give you a look in Excel. This one will give you an idea. This is this. If you want to create a formation of with a unit size of 100 men and create a 2, 3, 4 or 5 rows deep formation, you have to apply those formulas. And how can you read it? L is line, M is middle, 3 is 3. So if you want a 3-row formation for spear wall, we need 3 lines plus middle plus 2. How does it work? We go out of formation, we drag and drop, we create 3 lines. Okay, let's move them further away. We create 3 lines. This is 3 lines and some more. Okay, then by middle I understand. Can you see those 2 big arrows indicating the direction of the unit? Yes. If you make sure that those small men arrows are equal to the big arrows, so too much, too few, exactly that, by the external dimension of the big arrow. This is the half and a middle. Then you add 1, 2, right? So 3.5, 1, 2, and you assume this formation according to my guide, and then you press shield wall. You'll assume, well, almost perfect, if not for Hans, Helmut, and Otto here. It is a perfect 3-row formation. And what you'll notice that even here shorter, it is standing in 3-row formation on spearmen and pikes. It's a big difference in how spread they are. 1, 2, meaning spearmen cover less ground in formation. Assuming that 3-row deep is as effective on spearmen as pikemen. So here is your first hindrance with pikemen. They cover less ground, and this unit is defensive. You want to cover your defend your territory with them. So it means that skirmishers have a lot of place to stand behind the pikes, but once spearmen, not so much. You lose a considerable amount of territory gained. So this is the first problem. The second problem, obviously, being that the need to micromanage it. But however, the assumption that also again some more is 3-row dips, because these guys make no contact with the charging enemy on the front, and these guys do. 3 ranks deep is not optimal. If you look on wide, there is 4 and 5 that I include from 2, which is spaghetti, almost spaghetti, 3, 4, 5. Those are the real world values, I would say. You can go much further than that, but this is just such a waste because you're not covering any ground with this kind of formation. It has some uses, but when want to quickly to rotate, but it's a wholly different topic. So spearmen are when you were to make a test and receive a cavalry charge, 3-row dips receives more casualties than 4-row dips and 5-row dips, because of how mass is calculated, is of the men behind them. So if you want to have 1 row, you have only, well, let's say mass of 1, right? 1 times per man. If you have 2 rows, it's double that. So the impact that knocks your units and most likely insta-kill them is much less. So going deep is the best when you're receiving cavalry charge. However, you reduce significantly the amount of terrain you cover. And if in this formation you would need so many units to cover any amount of ground. So this unit really plays to its strengths and covers its role of area denial, of securing territory that you can hide here your squishy melee infantry or squishy skirmishers. Those guys are more defensive too, but they defend themselves, not so much anything behind them. Those guys defend themselves and so much stuff and land behind them. So this is the major strength. And if you compare, actually, I would say I go compromise between rank deeps, which is mass and how much covering ground, and go for 4 rows of spearmen. 4 rows, we need 4 lines, middle +1. So you drop out of formation, all the hassle with the micromanagement. You see, those guys you can just drag, and you're just perfectly fine. And those guys need so much babysitting. So we go 4 rows, middle, +1. Perform formation. Oh, I mean, Helmut, the formation would be perfect if not for your subordinates. Helmut, you are fired. So you can see that in 4-row formation, which I would say it's, in my opinion, best to receive a compromise between the width and depth of formation for spearmen. So much less, like 60% of what pikes cover by the spearmen. So again, they are good to defending, but defending themselves, pike defend themselves and everything behind them. So much better. So major gripe. Aside from how you have to babysit the formation. The second problem, a huge problem with this formation, is because these guys, when in formation, this is the maximum you can spread them. There is, I cannot demonstrate right now because it's hard to reproduce in solo play, but let's assume a situation. There is an enemy cavalry, right? And this is your defensive formation. The enemy cavalry charges you. There is some fighting, and they disengage. And what happened? If you had a narrow formation that covers your ground, these guys took some casualties and were knocked down and displaced. The game tells them after engagement is finished to return to your position, return to your formation, and these guys will try to do it. However, because the game cannot perform this this thin formation of 3, only of they can do only 5.5. So these guys will reform exactly like this. Can you see the move order? In a much wider one. So if you receive an attack, be it infantry or cavalry, in a tin formation, and enemy disengage or perishes, then your guys will first go to the front for whatever reason. It is hardcoded like this, so they'll move to the front and then try to stay in this position. So after an engagement, if you still want to defend some ground, you need to disengage them, again spread them in a previous position. It's such a hassle, so much more babysitting for your spearmen. Very, very annoying. Pikemen don't have this problem because they can assume any depth of formation, so they just reform, and they don't need this kind of babysitting. So one more hassle with the spearmen. What's more about spearmen? If there is an enemy and I order my pikes to attack the enemy by right clicking on the enemy, they will walk in formation, still being effective, and attack the enemy in formation and fight. If I was to click on my spearmen and click attack on the enemy, as let's assume the pikemen are the enemy, they will walk toward the enemy, walk, and upon reaching certain distance, a charge distance, this is different for cavalry and spear infantry, let's say it's here, they will drop from formation and perform charge. And for them, being in charge is much less beneficial than in formation, even when engaging infantry. Because when engaging infantry, you receive well entity mass, but shield defense, and shield defense is huge. Those guys are tanky, and because they cannot really win against melee infantry, you expect them more to hold, to grind it out with the enemy infantry. So you want them to hold for as long, not to kill, because they will lose in an even fight. So you want them to be defensive. And so this is another problem. You cannot just right click on the enemy. The technique I use, if I have them in formation, I want them to attack those guys, I don't right click on those guys, I click beside them. So they move, and upon meeting the enemy, they engage in formation. So you have to play around again and again. You have to play around this formation stuff. And if you were, believe me, I've tested it multiple times in combats, if you want to hold, these guys hold for a much longer time, they deplete the enemy unit much deeper when in formation, even infantry, speaking of infantry, than when applying the charge bonus. Because charge bonus applies only for the charge and then deteriorates over time very quickly, and it adds to melee attack, melee defense, and melee defense is a chance of avoiding the attack completely, and you are tighter, so you're less prone to charge, because there is less unit contact that it's made. So absolutely fighting. Spear wall, I would never go outside of this skill, only when I want my units to sprint somewhere, to move them fast, and then when reaching the battle condition, I go spear wall and then move them manually toward the target to engage. Now, when we are speaking about movement, let's cover another topic. You have your spearmen. They are in formation, and you want them to move. You click them to move, and they move in formation. You want them to run. You double click or press R. They raise the weapon, run, and you want them to stop running. You press R again. It's the default key. They stop. They drop the pikes. And they keep walking. All information. I didn't have to touch this button even. Spearmen, on the other hand, you want them to walk. They walk. You want them to run. They cannot run in formation. They drop the formation and they run. So if you want them to assume the formation again, you have to click spear wall when they stop. So again, much more babysitting, and so this is so much annoyance when applying to those spearmen. This needs so much babysitting on your part, and in heat of the combat, when you micromanage, first, this is a prone to error, and second, you may not have time to this, or something goes wrong. Another very important thing that I believe it's a very useful tip when using pikes. Imagine you're presenting a strong front to the enemy cavalry that is approaching. What do? What enemy does is they don't want to charge you on the front, obviously they want to flank you. How do you respond to being outflanked? Let's assume this is a 1 versus 1 situation. Well, obviously you can drag and draw, but if you want to manage the same depth of formation, you have to make sure it's free, and it's a long time. No, you can obviously first, if you want to translational movement, which is front, back, left, and right, you can use your arrows. When you hold control, left control, and apply left and right arrow, you can then move your unit like this, but I find it very inaccurate, and I don't like it. I don't like this way of rotating my unit because it is unaccelerated. The start is slow and then it accelerates. It's like a mouse acceleration. I'm against it. So the best way to rotate your unit on the spot is you hold left alt, mouse over the unit, right click, and then you can do this very fast, very amazing. So if the enemy is flanking you, bam, you rotate your unit on the spot. Very the best, in my opinion, the most efficient way to rotate your unit on the spot. Let's make them face again. Then let's assume a different position, because you're and here again, because of you can move in formation, which I put so much emphasis on in my previous and these videos. Moving in formation is key. If the formation was static, you would have to rotate. You would have to drop out of formation, reposition, wait for them to reposition, and press pike wall. This is why moving formation is such crucial. And for me, formations without ability to move are just bad. Not worth it. So too much babysitting or too much too prone to flanking. Now, the interesting thing about controlling your unit is, imagine this is the center of the unit, just below the icon here. And if you drew a mental circle around the unit, and this is your 0 angle, and then increases like 90 angle, 180 angle, 270 angle, 360 equals 0 angle. So, if you want your units to move and change facing, which is rotate, you can move. If you want to move forward, you can click and they move forward. If you want them to turn around and move backward, you click, they turn around and walk. However, if you want for them to move and change facing, you click on the side. And in order for them to change this facing delicately, you imagine there is a cone in your circle of about 120 degrees, so like this cone. And if you click on this cone, these guys will rotate and move. However, when you click on the blind sides, here on those 60 degrees, and here on the 60 degrees, these guys, when I click here, won't just rotate and walk, they will do something completely different. Watch, they won't just rotate and run and rotate and walk, they will reform when clicked to the side. See what happens. They break the ranks completely, something very strange happens. And to form, this is the faster way to do it mathematically, but you are so prone to any form of attack during this deployment. So when the enemy is seeing your pikes and is being a vulture circling around them and looking for a weak spot, and they are moving on your 90-degree right flank, and you do this click order, when I am your enemy, in this moment I see you did this mistake, I send my cavalry instantly, and those guys are caught with their pants down, they are decimated. Never click like this when there is enemy nearby. Always make sure to use light alt, rotate. Oh, sorry, alt tab being pressed. Okay, sorry, back again. It turns out Shadowplay doesn't like to recount sound. I think this is the last video I'll use making Shadowplay. What I want next week is to show you very cool stuff. Imagine this. This is your formation of pikemen. This is the enemy cavalry on the front, and seeing how they cannot penetrate your front, they try to flank you from the right side. Right side is more important. because your units, when they have shield, their armor bonus is applied from the front and from the right, not from the left. Well, from looking on this side, and from this side on the right. So if you want to flank, if you have the choice, I'll try to flank from the right and around the right, because you avoid the shield armor bonus on this side when you flank. So these guys are trying to flank you, and if you and we look for the weak spot, just probe you for the weak spot, and if you don't respond, they're gonna just rear you or flank you. So you want to rotate, and if you rotate by left alt turn, imagine the situation. Okay, let's go wider for the sake of the argument, and normal speed. Imagine they are flanking you, rotate with left alt right click to this position. Guys, start to change position, and drop formation, well, which is bad. This is the weak point. Let's see, you start to rotate, and the enemy sees this and decides, this is my opportune moment. This is the moment I will charge you. And you see that they are charging. And the thing with being charged, not only not information, but when you are moving, when you are in stationary, you receive brace bonus, which means you have more mass, you receive less casualties, even from behind and even from the side. So you want to hold, even being charged from the back, you want to hold. You don't want to be moving. Moving is a death wish. So what happens? You press hold, and look what happens. Guys will reform when halted in a line, giving you a sub angle, and then drop their pikes. So if you manage to perform this, this is amazing. Now imagine a second situation. The guys are still trying to flank you, and you click. Maybe let's a little bit narrower. These guys want to flank you, and then you click to the side. Okay, let them form first. You click to the side, like this. They break the ranks and start running and running. And the cavalry sees it, the enemy sees it. Oh, it's a good strike point, and they charge you. And now you want to press hold, right? Press hold to get stationary, get the brace bonus. You press hold, and the unit will stand in this way. And then it will reform, and it takes so much more time, and you are much more prone to the charge in this way. So in both examples, never use click to side movement when the enemy is nearby, because when I see someone do this kind of stuff, even as infantry, it says charge me. It really does. Loose spacing, running, displaced, just charge. Okay, to sum it up, pikemen, excellent against cavalry, good against infantry, okay against missile fire. These guys, good against cavalry, bad against infantry, very good against missile fire. However, because of how much more terrain these guys cover, how much more easier they are to control, which is very important in battle, of how 5 range means frontal attacks don't damage them, while these guys, even when braced, when spear wall, when in deep formation, they still receive casualties when receiving charge. So if I have a game plan of bringing those units, those types of units into my engagement, because you could argue that in current metagame all you need is cavalry, melee infantry, maybe some skirmishers. If I plan to bring them, I would always bring pikes over spearmen, and because only Ostrogothic guys can use pikemen, I would find myself picking out of the Germanic factions just Ostrogoths, just for those, if there is my game plan. So definitely pikemen, the winner. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave any questions you might have, and see you around.